What's up, YouTube? John here. What's up, YouTube? John here. And I'm back with the more of a rebuke than I'm used to making, with a lot less preparation for the video than I normally do. So forgive me if I get a little bit emotional. This is a topic that's very near and dear to me. It was initially theorized by me as the architect of the can clear, the wide-reaching implications of that for classic World of Warcraft, and especially the more competitive the more competitive part of the scene, which is that, and I've been seeing a lot of slander, frankly, in the Twitch chats, the various communities, especially Koopskis, which is that Warlock DPS never took off and never will take off in classic World of Warcraft. Now, I'll give it to the Warriors. They have this for the first part of the expansion. They can have Molten Core, okay? They can have Dire Maul, okay? But this is something we proved years ago, is that when you apply can clear, when you apply its efficiency coefficients as well as its regimentation of DPS, along with some changes Blizzard has made, actually. And these are some of the worst changes for balance ever, in my opinion, because it's just made Warlock so broken. First, the change that strengthened Clan Clear's regimentation of DPS throughout a raid. As you know, before King Clear, we used to just do damage continuously. We used to measure it like that. Now we do it in what we call regiments, because not all DPS is equal throughout equal parts of a fight, obviously. But we created a mathematical model that would take that into consideration. And what ultimately that meant was that without Warrior constantly regenerating rage, without the constant feedback loop that is the Warrior shitfest, that they kind of fell off in terms of damage. And so that's one thing. That's one way that the Warrior stopped. But it was also an increase in DPS for Warlock. Why is this so? A couple of things. DPS no longer batching Blizzard meant that Warlock curses and damage over time effects get three times the amount of procs that they would have in the normal batching fight due to lag. Before, you used to lose a lot of DPS. And this is why it didn't work in the original Classic. This is why Warrior DPS was so dominant in original Classic, but that's not the case anymore. It is early, but late game vanilla rating, it's just not the case anymore. And with Can Clear, what you have is what we call the Tump Tyrant position. The Tump Tyrant theory is actually a political theory that has been co-opted, which means that when the mighty fall, when the ones that were wearing the crown fall, Warrior, it falls a long way, basically. And that's the Tump Tyrant principle. Now, So that means basically that you're only going to be wanting to bring a couple warriors to every raid. Mostly for Sunder Armor, for some of your other physical DPS. Amplify them. They're more of a support class at this point. But the biggest balance change recently that Blizzard just made that's horrendous is the ability for Warlocks to stack curses. And listen, I've been in the numbers. I've seen the numbers. I've been deep into the numbers. And I'm not talking about Warcraft logs. Okay, you have to write your own add-ons to track damage. Okay, Warcraft logs, or should I say warrior logs, has a vested interest in misconstruing the truth because, let's face it, Classic is a great big player base. And the more you cater to the whims of this competitive player base about, the idiosyncrasy of the warrior and efficacy of the warrior in Classic, the idiosyncrasy of everything else, what you get is some pretty toxic data collecting methods. And ultimately, what you're going to find out is you'll notice a practical difference when you're raiding with Warlocks as the main, the prize pig, the queen pig DPS. And you'll go, oh, why is this? It's supposed to be warriors. It's supposed to be warriors. And you would be one of the more observant individuals of the Classic community. You wouldn't be one of the sheeple that kowtows to big warrior if you saw that, if you said that, if you noticed that experience, if you had that experience and you paid attention to it with your eyes and your ears, like many of us do, like many of us at the top do. And if you did notice that without this video having to tell you that it's true, then you may yet have a place in our ranks. But you have to look at the real numbers. And you can't just stop there. You can't just stop with this seems wrong. You have to find verifiable data. You have to find the verifiable data that proves it, right? Because these people, quote unquote people, won't take that for an answer. They need something verifiable. It's like the whole cigarette thing all over again. You look at history, and it proves me right that cigarettes were bad for you. And honestly, Big Cigarette wanted to cover it up, didn't they? Right? There's a vested interest. All right? So don't you dare listen to the experts. Okay? Not that I'm not an expert, but I'm a black sheep of the community now. I used to be really respected. You can see I got timed out in Koopski's chat for an hour just the other day for speaking the truth, for talking about Can Clear. That video got me into hot water with the rest of the World of Warcraft community. And what you have to realize is that rolling a Warlock, you're just not going to get the respect that you deserve. That's the shitty reality of it. You're not going to get the respect you deserve for putting your enjoyment on the line, for risking this, for only a couple raid spots. They'd rather the game be a lot harder, even for the most competitive guilds out there, the most speedrunning guilds out there. They'd rather the game be a lot harder than do it as quickly as possible, than be as competitive as they'd like to be, because they have this vested interest, and some part of me gets it. The warrior class is fun. It's got that rage feedback loop. A tank can do the most damage in the raid, blah 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 blah. But in reality, Classic's not that different from the other expansions. Is that Warlock is the best, ends up being the best DPS, and it's because the foundations of the class, frankly, when you can stack debuffs, when there is no debuff extrapolation boundary, which Blizzard has removed in several ways. They have made movements to remove, first with the batching and then with other changes. When there is no what we call the fallacious outer boundary, when there is only a minimum and no maximum for the debuffs and buffs that the Warlock brings to the table, it's proven historically that they blow everyone else out of the water. They hit a minimum fallacious flesh threshold with their gear that ends up being, and there's a couple of really specific things that make up that threshold. So one of them is a particular piece from Dire Maul. And then another one is a piece from Molten Core. I want to say it is a chest piece. There's a lot of different moving pieces to this. I'd have to have the chart in front of me. And of course, the best thing about this is that, unlike a lot of different things in Classic, it is variable. There's a lot of variables that can come into it. There's a lot of different pieces of gear that, we can't even really do the math for figuring out. It only can come through experience. And that's just what I wanted to say to you guys today, is to, first of all, inform you about, the dangers of, you have to do your own research. You have to make the add-on, basically, in today's World of Warcraft, especially when it comes to Classic, because it has so many myths that so many people are attached to emotionally and upholding. What you're going to have to do, what you're going to want to think about is the history. Think about cigarettes. Generally, you're going to want to think about how, when you were a kid, you probably read that milk was the healthiest thing you could drink. That was just a lie from Big Milk. The healthiest thing you can drink. I met a woman on the radio who she actually she lived to be 110, and what she did was she drank a Dr. Pepper every day. That's the kind of information that I'm interested in. That's the kind of wisdom and pragmatics that I'm interested in. And I think the special thing about me is that I don't just have words. It's backed up by the raw data that you can find yourself. You have to make sure that you have the coefficients right. You have to make sure that you're considering the clear regimental theory, regimenting number theory. You have to think about the relativity, the theory of relativity. That's Einstein. That's not me. That's Einstein. When it comes to considering any mathematical question. And so that's what I'm going to leave you here with today. And that's what I want you to think about when you're hearing this information, when you're hearing this slander. Basically, Reddit is one of the few bastions of true knowledge that we have left in this community and any community. And the people there are true, and they argue with good faith. And even if somebody does hold like a wrong opinion, you can generally convince them otherwise. But there's a lot of the old Warlock, the old guard there who really remembers, before DPS meters were a thing, they remember what it's all about. And that's just what I wanted to instill here today. Be careful out there. There's wolves, there's sheep, and then there's you, and you've got to really think about that and be aware of it. And yeah, I think that's where I'm going to leave you off. I hope I've shaken some nerves. I hope I've shaken some people to their foundations today. I just couldn't take the slander anymore. And I may get in trouble for this video. There's a lot of vitriol out there. There's a lot of warrior mains who love their class, and that's something I respect them for. Really, they love their class, and they're just going to defend it to the death. And I think that's fair. I certainly would rather have more raid spots than less, if you know what I mean. I'd rather you know. But I don't play Warlock, you know. I think it's actually incredibly overbalanced, and that's what we'll play them. Yes, I will do the chicken club sandwich with a large Coke. And that's it.
You want the meal or the salad? Or just the salad?
The meal.
You said chicken club? And your drink?
Large Coke.
What else for you?
That's it.
I'll just put out the window.
Thank you. Oh, it's a beautiful day. Oh, it's